So, how about another very traditional Eurasian Christmas dish from Singapore and Malaysia? Hey folks, I'm Lynn Bloor from linsfood.com and Singaporean Malaysian recipes.com. Today's recipe is very, very traditional, goes back to the Portuguese occupation of Malacca in the 16th century and essentially ruled Malacca for about 130 years. And then the Dutch came along, but that's another story. So this recipe, Curry Feng, can trace its roots back to those times. Story goes that Portuguese ships on the way to Malacca carried livestock on board for obvious reasons, to feed themselves. The best cuts of meat would be cooked up for the officers, and the less glamorous bits, so to speak, liver, kidney, heart, and bits and pieces here and there, would be chopped up and turned into gruel, into stew for everybody else. So when the Portuguese settled in Malacca, naturally this got introduced to the locals. Over the years, spices got added and it became what we now know as Curry Feng. When it was first made aboard the Portuguese ships, Curry Feng was made with whatever livestock they happened to have. So it would be pigs and perhaps chicken. So they would mix all the offal together and cook up a stew. But over the years, it got transformed into a pork-based curry. I don't eat pork, as you may know. So I've long cooked Curry Feng with a mixture of various offal parts. So you could have chicken livers, you could have lamb kidney, etc., etc. In today's curry, I've stuck with lamb. This recipe is for all you guys who've asked me, going back 10 years now, for a Feng curry without pork. Better late than never, Curry Feng. So we're going to start off with making our own Curry Feng spice mix, and essentially we're going to dry toast our spices. So I've got coriander seeds. There's quite a lot of coriander seeds, so I'm going to do them separately because we do want them to be flat in the pan. So we're just going to dry toast each one of our spices for about 2 to 3 minutes until you can actually get their aroma. Dry toasting your spices wakes them up, so to speak. It releases the essential oils, it improves the flavor and the aroma. So before you grind any spices, always dry toast them. So that's giving me a wonderful aroma, so I'm just going to tip those out. And then we're going to add our cumin seeds and our black peppercorns. That's our homemade, super easy Feng curry powder. Oof. So put your water on to boil, and then really we can get everything else ready. So what I'm going to do now is I've already got some blended homemade garlic and ginger. So I'm just going to chop this up, blend this up. I've got some chopped onions there. So part of it is chopped, a little part of it is chopped, and the rest of it is going to be blended. Water is boiling. I've placed one of these deep sieve, strainer, colander kind of jobs with a hook attachment there so it can rest on there. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. You could, because they're all going to be cooked up together, so you could blanch them all together and then drain the water, saving it because we're going to use the stock. So just place our heart and a couple of kidneys. So when that's had 5 minutes, all we're going to do is take it out, leave it aside to cool, and then continue with the rest. We're going to add some liver. I've got more than I need here, so I'm just going to add the right amount. What I also like to do to enhance the stock itself is I like to drop in a couple of lamb chops with the bone and fat. So that goes in inside itself because I'm not going to be chopping this up. I'm actually using this to enhance, to deepen the flavor of the stock. So we're just going to repeat this process until everything has been blanched. So the last thing I've got to do here, so we're doing the offal, and then the last thing I've got to do is the lamb shoulder. I'm not going to blanch the bacon. The bacon is just going to go into the stew to cook later. After blanching everything, we're going to chop them up tiny, tiny little cubes because it's almost like a keema, but not quite. Okay, so our offal and meat has cooled, just about cooled for me to handle it now. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop it all up. And here's the bacon that I didn't blanch that we're just going to add to our Curry Feng. So ready to cook Curry Feng now. I like to use a wok type of pot because the wider pot allows the liquid to dry off quicker. Curry Feng is meant to be a dryish curry. So the liquid wants to be cooked off. I forgot my bacon fat, so we're going to add that in now. I usually start with the bacon fat. We render the fat and then add our vegetable oil in there, but hey, it's okay. So the bacon fat lends flavor to the whole dish and to the onions as well. So the onions have had a couple of minutes, so now we're going to add our spice mix. You can keep the extra curry powder in an airtight container, keep it with the rest of your spices, and you know, it will last indefinitely, but like all spices, its potency will decrease with time. So use it to make standard curries. Then we're going to add our meat, our blanched and chopped up meat. And now we're going to add that simmering stock in the back. Along with the stock, we're also going to add our flavoring, which is essentially light soy sauce. This is our salt, really, isn't it? Dark soy sauce. Want to know the difference between all these soy sauces? Just look for the link in the below the video to my blog, and I explain all the different types of soy sauces that we use in an East and Southeast Asian pantry kitchen. And then we add some white wine vinegar. You can use regular clear vinegar if you like too. Now we're going to bring it all to a boil, and then we're going to reduce the heat and simmer it until we have a thickish curry. So you can see that it's got very thick, pretty dry. And this is how Curry Feng should be. Taste it. That's just perfect, full-on flavor. It's salty from the soy sauce and the little bit of salt we added when we were blanching the offal. And it's tangy, which is an inheritance from Portuguese cuisine. So that's it. I like to finish this off with just a teensy-wincy bit of a vinegar drizzle, because it's already pretty tangy. Now, if you think it could do with a little bit more tartness, then by all means add a full teaspoon. I added 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon. And then let it rest for about 5 minutes, and then you can dish it up. How do we serve Curry Feng? It's traditionally served alongside curry devil, and for those who make the Christmas pie, with Christmas pie as well on Christmas Day. And we eat it with sliced baguette. That's the traditional way. Baguette and curries are a match made in heaven. In Singapore and Malaysia, that combination is so common at parties. So this is our Curry Feng. And then we'd finish it off with a scattering of ginger. And of course, some fresh coriander leaves. Chop that up and scatter it all around. And that's it. Full recipe for Curry Feng. The ingredients below, article over there, curry devil over there, Eurasian Christmas pie also over there. Should we have a taste? It has a really full-on flavor. Meaty, earthy, salty, tangy from the vinegar as well. And of course, pretty curry-ish, given our homemade Feng curry powder. The tiny pieces of ginger, fresh ginger, uncooked raw fresh ginger, just adds a zing, a citrusy zing to the whole curry, to each bite, to each mouthful. That's it from me. I'm Aslin Blanc from linsfood.com, and where this recipe will be, Singaporean Malaysian recipes.com. I shall catch you guys real soon.